pre-cooking bacon in the oven. Less mess in the trailer, easier to heat up. All you got to do is prepare beans, eggs, and any other accoutrements that you want. Gathering up dry goods and other things that don't need to be refrigerated so that we can load up the pantries in the trailer ahead of schedule. Oh my God! So much stuff! I think I've talked about this in previous videos, but still adjusting our pattern of getting ready. Where we used to have to park this thing in a storage lot, it used to be a case of hauling everything from our condo day of camping, because the storage lot was like 10 minutes away, to get everything packed in, dishes, food, whatever. We've got to get in a better habit of gradually preparing in the days ahead. I still find that we seem to leave things, whoopsie, somewhat to the last minute. And the problem with that is that it's a lot of work, especially when you got 4 children, to get everything packed up and ready to go, you know, ahead of schedule. And you run the risk of getting to a point where you kind of resent it. You kind of ask yourself, you know, all this work to pack the clothes and prepare the camper and get all the food in, and, you know, these lists of all the, you know, first aid type stuff that I need, and all the rest of it, and trying to corral these kids to get them all organized. You start to think to yourself, you know, what kind of a vacation is this? This is a heck of a lot of work. We could just go to a hotel and, you know, have breakfast and whatnot there and do it that way, although that would be way more expensive. My grandparents, I've shared this on the channel before, they owned a trailer, or a caravan as they call it in the UK. They went out nearly every weekend, Friday night, home Sunday, and they would gradually prepare over the course of the week, and they loved it. You know, the packing and the getting organized and getting all your bits and pieces ready. That was all part of the experience. To quote Clark Griswold, it's all part of the experience, honey. And they loved that. So I try to keep that focus. My wife and I try to keep that focus as best as we can. But I'm sure my kids get frustrated. One little tip though, if you're doing this in the summer and you're putting stuff like bread and snacks and chips and things in this cupboard, if it's the summertime, make sure your trailer's nice and cool inside. If you're going to be leaving it sitting around, like we're not leaving till tomorrow afternoon, if it's going to get super hot, you know, make sure your rig's plugged into shore power and run the air conditioner. Keep things cool in here. I mean, this stuff's not necessarily going to go bad per se, but you don't want it sitting out here in, you know, 90-degree Fahrenheit weather for extended periods. That's not really good for it. I've also got the fridge on. It's running off of electric right now. These absorption fridges take a long time to cool down, and so I like to kind of get a head start. It'll hold the temperature quite well during the journey when I disconnect from shore power. I don't run the fridge while I'm driving. I know some campers will leave the propane on and running and they'll run the fridge. Some folks have a 12-volt fridge that will run off the 12-volt supply from the vehicle. Not going to get into that debate. What I will say is ours only runs off of 110 or gas. It's not powered by 12 volts. So I personally prefer to just run it a couple of days ahead of time, get it nice and cool, shut it off during the journey. Then when we get to the campsite, it doesn't take very long to get it back to an ideal temperature. So it's the day we head out. It's about 11 a.m. We just loading up a few things out of the garage. We got the towing mirrors all set up on the vehicle. Just loading up some of the clean laundry. We've got the rest of the dry goods, canned stuff and all that kind of loaded up in the rig. Gonna get all of our meats and frozen items in just a minute. But right now, we gotta get this big bad boy hooked up to the vehicle. This thing is an amazing piece of equipment. It makes towing so much more stable and safe. This is the Bluff Sway Pro. I've mentioned this on the channel many times before. Weighs a ton, but makes a big difference for towing. So I'm gonna hook this up to the back of our vehicle. All right, time to get hooked up. So first things first, we got to take our Reese trailer lock off the front of the trailer. So let's do that first. We want to keep this thing well oiled with WD-40 because sometimes it can seize up a little bit. I keep my stabilizers down while it's parked in the laneway. So next step is to zip those up. All right, zip up the stabilizers because you don't want to start raising the nose of the trailer to hook up to the vehicle with the stabilizers still down. I am hooked up to shore power at the moment, which is fine. I'm running the air conditioner just while we were loading up, but you know, make sure that you disconnect that as well before you drive away. So 1 down, 3 to go. All right, hopefully the air conditioning noise isn't too bad. It's hot as heck in here. But can use a spotter for backing up. It gets confusing, arguing, issues with hand gestures. I use the good old backup camera. Although the one on our vehicle is not the clearest. It was a lot clearer on the truck. But I'm watching the tip of the ball here and then the tip of the coupler. It's a little hard to see in bright sunlight. Sometimes I've been tempted to paint like a white stripe or something on the coupler on the trailer to make it a little easier to see. But I'm just trying to bring the van back relatively in line, nice and slow. And it's there's a bit of an offset on the camera, so sometimes it's a little hard to judge, but that's pretty close. And what usually happens is the ball's usually back a little bit too far. It needs to be right in the front of the coupler to be able to engage the latch. Also watch very closely at this point to make sure you raise the tongue of the trailer high enough, because it can be a little deceiving. All right, so that looks pretty close. Top tip here is when you put the vehicle in park, engage your parking brake if you have a good parking brake, because the vehicle will roll a little bit forward or backward, and getting this thing hooked up on your own can really mean a matter of a 1/4 inch here or there to do it correctly. So let's hop out and see how we did. All right, so you can see not too good on this attempt, way too far back. I'm not centered. So I'm not gonna just pull forward and try again. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put the vehicle in park, swing the nose to the right a little bit. That'll help bring this ball more in line with the coupler, go forward a few inches and we should be good. Without a spotter, doing it on my own usually takes me a couple of tries. So hop back in the vehicle, let's adjust. Now be very careful doing this. I've got this hand here just to try and push things, but keep your damn fingers out from underneath because this could pop up and break your damn fingers off. So be very careful, but there we go. See? A little bit of pushing and she came together nicely. So I'm just gonna lower the nose a little bit. And okay, so I can't engage the latch. So what that means, I've just got to pull the vehicle forward just a hair. And I emphasize a hair. So buddy, you stay filming this bit and I'll pull the car forward just a tiny bit. Okay. There we go. All right, now she's latched. It's being stubborn today because it's on camera. Got a nice cotter pin, basically a pin that goes through the coupler here, stops it flying open while you're driving down the road. That could be a disaster. Latches over nicely like that so it can't slide out. Next thing is we got to put our spring bars on. But before you start doing that, it's always advisable to raise the nose of the trailer, which will pull up on the back end of your vehicle. Make it way easier to hook this sucker up. Not a lot, but just to take the pressure off. That's good. All right, so here's my spring bars. And on the Sway Pro, you've got your little pivot arms here. Probably not using the right terminology, but whatever. Very carefully put these in place. Not too hard because these pins can rust and fall off, so be careful. And I've marked the chain according to the right height that I want to get this thing to ride level. And on the Sway Pro, it hooks into this system here. And then I need this handy dandy wrench. Don't ever lose this. Make sure you double and triple check that you put this thing away. And it hooks onto the front, and there you go. Now that would have been a lot harder to do if I hadn't raised the nose. Now I just pull forward a bit, make sure she's latched. Now on this side, the chain goes counterclockwise. On the other side, it goes clockwise. And the theory is that the opposite tension of the chains helps to keep the trailer from swaying all over the place. And I've been towing with this trailer since 2017 in all kinds of conditions. I've never had it start swaying all over the place, so maybe this is a part of it. So I'm just gonna hop over the other side. It's also a good idea to raise the nose like this when you're disconnecting. That way you're not under so much pressure. Or the chains aren't under so much pressure, I should say. You also want to make sure that when you lower the nose down, there is a certain amount of flex in these bars. If these bars are dead straight, then your coupler height is off and you're not actually going to have a good steady toe. Maybe we'll talk about that in another video. So find my markings, there they are. Put it through the groove. Put the wrench on there. There we go. Pull it back a bit. She's all set. So at this point, what I'm going to do, stand here and try not to pass out because I'm fat and out of breath. Lower the nose. And the back of the van will squat a little bit, but those bars will start to bend ever so slightly, and it'll help keep the ride nice and level. You don't want the nose of the trailer up in the air. You also don't want it too far down on the ground. There we are. I'm just going to bring the foot of the trailer, the jack, up to just a little bit above this cotter pin, and then we'll hook up chains and everything else. Alright, so that's up where it needs to be. The next thing that I like to do is deal with my chains, and I've got them crossed a fair bit to make sure they don't drag on the ground. A lot of debate about how much you should cross chains, whether or not you should cross them. Some people would say this is ridiculous, it's too much, but I don't have a lot of clearance and I don't want my chains dragging on the ground while I'm towing down the highway. I'll put a couple of quick links on the back of the van because everything is so low to the ground, it's very hard to get these into there without the extra quick links. And then I've got another little clip here, and that's for the breakaway cable. So this cable goes to a switch down here that if the whole trailer was to disconnect from the vehicle, it would pull the pin and cause the trailer brakes to turn on, which would hopefully slow the trailer down and make a catastrophic situation less catastrophic. So I put it through this little pin mechanism so that it doesn't flop all over the place, and then it goes down beside the chains onto the back of the vehicle, and it just kind of drapes over the hitch like that. Take my blocks out of there, and then I hook up my power, my 7-way. Now, I like to have this above the sway bars so it doesn't get pinched or pulled. On the truck, it was easy. Plug it straight in, not a problem. On these vans, in their infinite wisdom, the Mopar connection is way down low, so you gotta lay down here in all the muck and filth, pull the door up, line it up. It's a bit tricky. Don't pull the door too hard, you'll snap the spring. Push it up in there, make sure it's nice and tight, and then I always make sure that we've got enough slack on the 7-way cable here that it can move as the trailer turns, but I don't want it dragging on the ground. And what we'll do in a minute when we go to leave is when I pull out onto the road, a nice level surface, I'll hop out and just make sure that everything is good, that we're not risking running this cable on the ground and severing it, the chains aren't dragging. This stuff always a little close when we're towing with this vehicle, but everything rides nice and level, nice and secure. No porpoising, no swaying. So yeah, just load up the kids, last few bits and pieces, and then we're gonna hit the road. Time to go register. Okay. Ellie, you're so cute. You joined me from Point Farms Provincial Park. I'm a little bit wet. I'm at the fill station and I was just about to film this little piece to camera and it went all over the place. It shot out of the water fill. But anyway, I just wanted to quickly share that we got to Goderich after probably about 3 hours of driving. We took a very scenic route. And I did a temperature reading of my hubs. If you saw the last video, I was talking about that. And again, concern area of temperature would be 180 Fahrenheit up to 200 Fahrenheit. I'm pleased to say that I temped both hubs, the outer casing of the hubs, and they were at about 107 and 111 Fahrenheit respectively, so a slight temperature variation, but if I understand correctly, that is well within acceptable limits for hub temperature. So clearly repacking using the Dexter Easy Lube system and really good Lucas red tacky grease worked. But we just got to Point Farms. We did a little bit of shopping in Goderich before we got here, and I am filling the 40-gallon tank. I've said this in other videos, but I love that for such a small park they've got 2 fill stations and 2 dump stations for probably 200 and some odd sites. Pinery, get your shit together and get more. It's a little tedious though. 40 gallons takes a while to fill, especially when you're wearing most of it. And then once we've got the freshwater tank filled up, we'll head over to our site and get all set up. It's pretty late in the day. It's like 4:30, which check-in and check-out time at provincial parks is 2. So for me to be getting here this late in the day, it's sacrilege. Cutting into my camping time. But you know what? We've got 3 nights here, so it doesn't really make a big difference. Backing in is going to be a little tricky. You got to back in on the passenger side for this campsite, so we'll see how that goes. But pretty good sized campsite, not super private. I'll show you some video of that in a minute. I'm just going to stand here and wait for the water to fill. Although it's windy as heck and not that warm out, the water's surprisingly warm. It's like 21 Celsius. I wouldn't swim in it right now, but it's all right for putting your feet in. Not a lot of people braving the beach tonight. So I have to whisper because all 4 of our kids have gone to sleep. It's not even 9 o'clock. We had dinner and I was doing dishes and I was outside getting a fire started. And my eldest daughter, who's 11, my eldest son, who's 13, both asleep in their bunks. And the babies have gone to sleep too, so my wife just wandered over to the bathroom facility. She didn't want to use the pump on board and wake them up. I'm just about to start a fire and the kids have all passed out. It's our final night here at Point Farms for this trip. We were going to have a big fire with the firewood we have left and roast marshmallows, and I guess enjoy the peace and quiet now. And I hope the babies don't wake up. If they wake up prematurely, they're pretty miserable, so hopefully they'll sleep through the night. But I guess we wore them out. Fresh air and exercise, who knew? Let's sit by the fire for a bit.
What did you say? You said like one of the offers. Oh, so you didn't know the offer before? Wait, dude, this is like Shark Tank, you're saying?
Well, good morning. It's the morning of our second full day here at Point Farms, and what a storm we had this morning. Lightning and thunder and tremendous rain. Only lasted for 15 minutes or so, but it completely flooded the campsite. In any kind of stormy situation, you got to really keep an eye on your awning. Ours allows it to be bent down to angle the awning so the water runs off, but you get a nasty wind gust on these power awnings and you could lose the whole damn thing. So I always get up and take a look outside to determine, you know, is it getting too gusty? Do I need to come out, straighten that arm and roll it in? And the entire campsite had like 1/4 inch of water. You can see how a lot of dirt got washed over the mat here. Everything's absolutely drenched. We hung up some clothes to dry. That didn't work. You can see there's some standing water over there. Really interesting that it's Saturday today, and we've noticed since yesterday afternoon, going into the weekend, a lot of empty sites, a lot of people leaving and then nobody else coming back, which is so unusual. Typically at provincial parks, weekends are the absolute busiest. Not a bad site. This is site 50. Like a lot of the Point Farm sites, there's not a lot of privacy in the corners of these sites. Looking into the other sites, you can see that they plant a lot of little trees that are slowly filling in to try and give you a little more privacy. This site also has a tap on the corner, so you don't get a water supply on your site, but this is a shared water supply. What's interesting, though, is you get a lot of other campers coming and going to fill up their water here, their jugs and their pans and things. And so if you're a sociable person, this is kind of neat. Gives you a chance to wave, say hello. That's site 51 over there. We've camped in that site a few times. Pedestals right in the corner, which is nice, so your power hookups are easy to get to. That site's the same thing, though, as off to the left over here around the corner. It's a little open into the neighbor's site again, and I'm not, we're not antisocial, but the more privacy, the better. So yeah, not sure what the plan is for today. We spent the entire day at the beach yesterday, but a lot of the water along the shores of Lake Huron has been posted in the last little while because of E. coli, probably just bad water quality. And when you have a storm roll in like this, it does churn things up, and you usually get poor quality after the storm. But they only test once a week, so I'm not sure if we'll be swimming today. So might walk around downtown Goderich today, and maybe we'll get some footage of that. We've been downtown, we've driven around downtown, but we've never really walked around. But anyway, you can probably hear my kids crying in the background, so I'm going to go make some breakfast and see what the day has in store. When we got to downtown Goderich, we had to stop for a minute for the funeral of Goderich Mayor Miles Murdoch, who sadly passed away from cancer. This only a year or so since their previous mayor died in a boating accident. This was our first opportunity in many years to walk around downtown Goderich. I really love the downtown core. It has that sort of classic 40s or 50s downtown feel to it. Always reminds me a little bit of Hill Valley from the Back to the Future series. And I really think one of the best parts of the downtown is this really classic 1940s, 50s movie theater. My kids had never seen anything like this, and it reminded me of movie theaters from my childhood. A little bit later in the day, we walked down to St. Christopher's Beach. There's a series of beaches within Goderich. There's the main beach. This is St. Christopher's. Further down is the Cove Beach. They've had to do a lot of upgrades to the area recently because of erosion, so they've put in large blocks of stone to try and prevent that. They've built a beautiful boardwalk. St. Christopher's Beach is nice, more sheltered. But the beach itself is not for the faint of heart. You have to scale over this breakwater, and then there's little sections of sand that you can see just down there. So if you've got mobility issues, St. Christopher's Beach is not really going to be ideal for you. You're going to either want to go to the main beach, which is back over by the salt mine there, or make your way down to the Cove Beach. Nice little playground in the shade there at St. Christopher's Beach, which was really, really nice. So we spent some time here, and then we decided to walk along the beautiful boardwalk. Yay! Good job, Addie. One of the big draws and things about Point Farms that make it super popular is the amazing sunsets. And campers love, in the summer evenings, to go to one of two main lookout points on the bluffs to get an amazing view over Lake Huron of the sunset. Crowds gather here most nights. It's very peaceful. Generally, people are very courteous and, leave a little bit of space so you can take lots and lots of photos of those incredible sunsets. You can also drive down to the beach to get the view from there, but we'd like to mix it up. Some nights we go down to the beach, other nights we go to the bluffs. Well, It is the evening of August 28th, my birthday, and this is our last campfire of the summer camping season. So Labor Day is just around the corner. As far as I'm concerned, that's the start of early fall, and this will mark the end of our summer camping season. We're going to take September off and do some camping in October, and quite likely in late October, possibly into November. We'll see how things go. Bittersweet that the summer is already wrapping up. Tomorrow we pack up and make the long drive home. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, give us a thumbs up. Happy camping, and we'll talk to you later.